Thanks for watching today. Now a quick chat about servo winches. Quick and easy way to convert one from an existing servo. A couple of bits and pieces that you'll need available from China, and then what some of the control options are. So I've got my test mule SCX-102, which is just about to start a winter refresh. So I've had a quick experiment, figured out what I need to do. I thought we'd go through in detail on a quick and easy conversion. So I'll move the camera around so you can get a better angle, and we'll convert a basic Power HD 20 kg servo into a winch, which will hopefully be able to pull my truck around. Okay, so basic components are obviously winch that you choose on that front. You can go anywhere. You can spend 16 quid like I did on this one from China, or anything up to 100 quid if you're really brave enough. The winch cable, spool and hook, again China, eBay, something daft like about 3 quid. The best part is the spool, which is the difficult part to make and the slightly annoying bit. Actually has a 25 tooth female spline, so it will just clop straight on the servo. That works really well. In fact, it's a good fit getting it off as well. So that's the difficult part. That gives you the cable to wind around then. Hooks, okay size. Generally speaking, you always need a bit more taken out in the middle if you want to fit it around an existing roll cage or something. And the cable's pretty gash, to be fair. It's just got too much memory. It doesn't like going tight. It's the kind of thing that just uncoils at the easiest opportunity. So I tend to give that a skip, and I tend to use an RC4 drive cable, although I do plan on having a go with a bit of heavy duty fishing line and seeing if I can come up with a slightly cheaper solution to that. Right, so the first thing when playing around with the servo winch is to take the 4 screws out the back, which allow us to get inside the servo. Okay, so we take the cover off. You can see that there's a healthy amount of silicone sealant in there doing absolutely bugger all. Then we've got the control board connected to the motor, and hopefully if I can pull that off, there we go. And then you've got the gear train which sits across the top, and in fact you can actually see that there's a couple of brass bushes inside there which support the top of these pins. So it doesn't look too bad. I mean, this servo was the steering servo off the Cherokee. I'm upgrading the steering servo, so I thought this would make a good second conversion. So come to see what state it's in. So in order to strip this off, you need the sealing rubber O-ring off the top, and the bearing off the shaft, he says. Crikey, that's on there. There we go. That allows you to take the centre gear set out. Now you can see there's been a bit of water in there by the looks of the corrosion on that. It doesn't look entirely happy. And you can take off the main gear set. And actually what we'll do is we'll pull the whole assembly out. So there should be, on these ones, waterproof ones, 2 O-rings. Look at the state of that. Okay, I don't think this top, yeah, and the top one's no better either really. They look like they've been twisted as they've been put in, which is a bit unfortunate. Okay, then what you can see here is you've got the potentiometer underneath the top, which is driven by the slot in this gear set, and then that's through the control board and stuck on the back of the motor. So what we need to do is unsolder the wires on the motor. So hopefully soldering iron is up to speed, up to temperature I should say. So just a quick job, excellent. Okay. And then when that's free, you can see that there's just one small screw there which holds the potentiometer in. Cool. Pin that around. Oh well, catch that later. And then in theory, there we go. So potentiometer, control board all come off in one piece. and you're left with what you actually need, which is the motor and the gear train. So you can see I've had a bit of water in here by the looks of things, so not quite waterproof, but good enough for what I need. So the other thing I need to do is strip the... So there's a small pin which you can see on the side of the gear mechanism here, and that's what actually limits the rotation of the servo. So I need to get that stripped off. So on the first one I did, there was the hole was drilled all the way through and you could push the pin out from the back side. This one unfortunately is a blind hole, so I'm hoping we can get... There we go, awesome. Just pull that out. A few marks on there, nothing crucial. So this can now be assembled back on there. That slots and locates in. Push bearing back on. Push that back on, and then you're good to reassemble all the way through. Now if you're going to do it properly, which I suspect you will, we put no ring seals back on and what have you. So that essentially allows the servo to rotate continuously. What we need to do now is come up with the best method of controlling this thing. So we've got a couple of options today. So what you would normally do is solder straight to the terminals on the motor. But on my dummy one in the front of the SX10-2, I've put a female JST connector so that we can just quickly swap between controllers. So options wise, we've got this one from Banggood, which is a TFL Servo Winch. I think it cost me something like £9.89. Took about 4 weeks to arrive, so not the quickest, and it did come with a cut in the shrink wrap on the heat shrink, so I've just wrapped a bit of insulating tape around it. Next option in terms of price is the speed controller out of a Vitera Ascender, so essentially a HobbyWing 1060. Because it needs teeing into the battery, I've had to put a T-line on the bottom of it, and because it's a speed controller and it will be putting battery voltage back into the receiver, I've just pulled the positive pin out the plug to make sure we don't feed the receiver voltage from two separate sides then. Next up, cost wise, is this little package from HeyOK. So it's a servo winch controller again, this time with a soft start. So it doesn't go straight to full voltage, it ramps up, I think it's between quarter and half of a second, I can't remember. The nice thing about this is it's very, very compact, and it will just about sit inside the space I've got inside my servo, whereas the Banggood one, unfortunately, the board length is such that there's absolutely no chance. Even if you could fold the wires around, it's not going to fit back in again. And then the fourth and final option for testing is RC4WD drive, which was the winch controller which controlled the warm winch on the front, and all I've done is just do a male-to-male JST lead to allow me to connect everything up. So what we'll do is we'll plug all of them in turn, make sure they work okay, and show you what some of the pitfalls or advantages for each one are. Okay, so once you've got the spool mounted on the bottom of the servo and in location, you can see that it just about copes with probably 2 meters of cable. It would be nicer if it was evenly distributed up and down the spool, but that's a consequence of what the size of the access hole in the front is. This is just again one of these cheap eBay China jobs, £6, which was designed to move the steering servo. It normally sits sort of on the side down here in the truck, moves it across to the front, which means you can lay the battery tray over like this. The standard setup does allow you to have a servo winch sitting at the back here, but the problem I found with these is because the spool is so deep, it actually starts to interfere with the top link mounts, or top links for the axle location. So what I'm attempting to do is use the existing layover battery tray with hole machined in the side, so that you can then drop a steering servo in the original location and then shim it back up again with a set of aluminium blocks like this, and then use this as my servo winch mount on the front. The servo was donated by my mate Sean. Cheers, buddy. It was one of those where it would go full one way and not the other. So Sean replaced it and threw this servo in my direction, which was wicked. So I stripped it apart, checked all the teeth were okay and that the stops were okay. I can only conclude that the problem actually was with the pot. And this one seems to work alright in its converted state. Right, just try and get it screwed back in again. So all the controllers are just going to run off the auxiliary channel. So aux 1, which is just this spare set of pins. I've taken the steering servo out just to minimise the amount of wires and complexity in the front. So first one, well, we might as well start with the Banggood one. So dead easy to wire up. Slot the JST in. Slot the servo plug in. Give ourselves a bit of room. Controller on. So I've got everything set up on the 3rd channel, which is just this switch here on my DX4. That seems to work. Fine and dandy. Now the really interesting thing is, when I previously plugged this in and turned it on, the servo winch would rotate 1/16 of a turn. And for some reason it's not doing it now. Oh, that's very interesting. So, okay, this is bizarre. So that was actually one of the downsides for this servo winch, was the fact that because of the direction of which the cables fed into the spool, every time it rotated 1/16 of a turn, it pulled the cable in. So you would have ended up snapping cable hooks or shearing the teeth on the servo valve train. I have absolutely no idea what's changed. So, oh well, chalk that one up to experience. So at the moment, that doesn't look like a bad option. Okay, so if we have a look at, so if we do the RC 4-wheel drive one now. So I'm not sure what the long-term ramifications of running a servo winch off this controller are. I wouldn't think, in all honesty, that the voltage requirement of this servo would be hugely different to the original servo winch style. So again, straight in, straight out, lightweight, slightly more awkward. You've got to leave it chucked up on a slider, but no hassle, and certainly you can custom make wiring to your own desired length at that point. And that's another sensible option. Right, let's try and get the plug out. Okay, so the other thing to try is the HeyOK one. So this is fantastic in terms of service. So I ordered this from HeyOK, a chap called Al Jackson out in Canada. So I ordered it from him on Monday lunchtime, and it arrived Saturday morning, which is pretty good all the way from Canada. And like I said, I had the soft start. So the normal winch is $25, soft start adds another $7 to it, makes it $32, which is, give or take, probably about 25, 28 quid, something like that at the moment. Downside is postage cost. Postage is just a flat $14, so 10 quid or thereabouts. However, speed of postage, speed of delivery, you can't go wrong, and I did stick one of his HeyOK light controllers in, so I can sort of mentally divvy the postage cost up between the two. So for the purposes of this, we'll call it 35 quid. But if a couple of you bought things, or you bought a couple of other bits, you could argue it was down to 30 quid. And again, just the same, nice and easy. Can't really spot the soft start. I think quarter of a second to half a second is pretty difficult, but no problem. So nice and compact, this one. If there is a downside, it's going to be, I'm going to have to extend the actual leads into the receiver box, so by the time you've hidden this actually inside the servo, you haven't really got enough room to go anywhere. So I mean, all I've actually done is just solder these two wires onto the two tails that Al had provided. Just keeps it nice and compact when it's in there. Okay, so the ESC is a bit more involved if you want to go down this route. So one, like I said earlier, you need to take the pin out to stop you feeding power into the receiver from two different sources. So we can plug that in. We also need to T, that says if we can get this open. So go from the battery into female plug. We're going to stick the normal vehicle ESC on the other side. So make sure that's on or off at the moment. Turn that off, and then we're going to plug this into here. So what you also need to do is set the EPA or travel, or the adjustable endpoints, on your controller, because the ESC is connected directly to, in this case, a 3-cell battery, and I know the servo is limited at 6.6 volts. So what you need to do is set your travel, and in this case, having tested it earlier, it actually responds, well, 6.6 volts is about the 33 mark. So let's try 33 and just hope it stays the same. If you don't do this, because your auxiliary channel is at 100% is just going to give you full battery voltage, means this little thing is going to be sitting somewhere in the region of about 11 volts, which I can't imagine is going to make it very happy. So you should, in theory, get two sets of beeps now. So we get 3 cells on a motor recognition from the first speed controller, and we get 3-cell recognition and the motor from the second speed controller. So I suppose you could argue this does have the advantage. You can turn the winch controller on and off if that's your thing. It is worth getting one of these. If you do use a ESC, use a drag brake, because if I understand correctly, it will short the poles of the motor out. So it should, in theory, when you're not doing anything, stop any winch creep. So it should stop you pulling cables in and out. So, and it does. There you go. Exactly the same. So they're all pretty much of a muchness. They all do a control job, which is what you want. Cost wise, they vary between what would appear to be £10 and 40 quid for the RC4WD drive one. They all come with various weights, packaging requirements. So sort of, I think a lot of it really is just down to what you've got available, what you want to stick in, how much you want to spend. I mean, the fact that you can pick the servos up if you buy them as pairs for sort of 32 quid. The spool, so the little kit from China, £2.50. Maybe a servo winch cable from RC4WD drive at £7, something like that. So you're in it for, what's that come out to? God, man maths, brain fart. So about 26 quid. Then you've got to fit a controller on top of that. So if the Banggood one works, which it appears to, so we'll stick that in again. Still don't quite understand why it was something different, and that's good news. So you could do it really as cheap as, what we're talking, 36 quid, something like that. If you're prepared to wait a bit longer. You know, complexity wise, well, there isn't really any. The worst part in SCX-10.2 terms is actually mounting the damn thing, so it doesn't quite fit as we'd hoped for. Right, we'll have one last check of this, and if it works, we'll do the old classic. There we go, see, it's done it again, and that's interesting. Right, so it's also, I need to set my EPA up again, because with having it down as low as 33% for the ESC, there we go, that's below the minimum voltage requirement for the Banggood to work. Okay. Right, so let's see if we can. So again, this is one of the reasons that I'm less enamoured with this one. Let's see if it does it again. So if I hold it here, turn it off, and there you go. That would just snap your cable basically. You can do it again. So just sanity check. Yeah. Now you could get away with it if you could feed the cable onto the other side of the spool. It would be spitting the cable out at you, so your hook would just dangle down. But you could get away with that. I don't think anybody would mind too much. Certainly for 10 quid, it isn't a bad option. So let's go with a HeyOK then. Has to be said, you know, this is my preferred option given the packaging of things. So let's just double check, make sure that's still happy. Yeah, no movement. In. Out. Okay, we'll move a few things around and do a winch test, because actually that's the bit you really want to see, isn't it? Okay, so if we try and do it sideways, stop the cables ramming around. So let's give myself a rope to hang it from. Yeah, that looks like it really ain't bothered at all, doesn't it? We'll call that a success. I have to drop my truck off the edge of the table. There you go. So, pretty simple really. Not too complicated. Fairly cheap in all honesty. I mean, you could spend, you know, I think my preferred target at this point is what, coming in at about 70 quid. It'll do the job nicely. It does free me up to run a nice narrow front bumper, and I can gain all my approach angle back, having dropped the truck down and made it as low as possible. Okay, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.